I think we should finish just by saying how well, again, Max Verstappen drove. Didn't make a mistake all day, just like Lewis, apart from Lewis's start. Max made a very, very good start, but he took advantage of the fact that Daniel had to back off and got past him there. And then he just did a great job. And to finish the that battle with Nico. Nico was using more fuel than Lewis, as he would anyway, slightly, but obviously driving through the traffic, you use more fuel. And there was a bit of talk going on about he was having trouble with the DRS. I had my doubts about that because you need to be absolutely clear about the gap in the activation zone before you say, oh, the DRS isn't open. And sure enough, he did have no problems with the DRS. What he was doing was just not he was backing off on the straight some laps to save fuel rather than going for it with the DRS open and taking the engine up to maximum rev. So when he needed to, the DRS was working perfectly. And there were two moments, I thought, that defined that battle. One was when he looked as if he was on the outside going into one, and he looked as if he'd got Max, and Max would just sort of give him room. But Max, of course, is absolutely perfect on that section of road, and it's a very, very tricky, difficult, subtle section of road, 1 into 2, because in a perfect world, you create a little bit of flat area to get the car stopped for 2, and it's not easy to do that. It's not a question of the line you take. It's a question of how you release the steering load coming out of 1, what you're doing with the brake pedal, what you're doing with the throttle, balancing the car. So you've actually created that little flat section to get the car stopped for 2. And Max had been doing that all weekend in Lewis Hamilton style. And Nico always comes out with slightly more lock and then very much smaller flat section and then more lock going into 2. And because of that, and because Max was able to find that little bit of extra flat car, he was able to brake really late into 2. And of course, there was nothing Nico could do about him. He beat him with sheer pace and manipulation of the car. Absolutely superb piece of driving. And here we should say, bear in mind the pressure Max was under. Nico Rosberg in a Mercedes, and he made 0 mistakes, no lockups. Yeah, you could say he was on the ultra-soft, but as I said earlier, he was graining the ultra-soft, so he didn't have massive grip either. And then, of course, there was the moment when Nico spun, and that was, it was iffy, I think, because, again, talking to Jacques Villeneuve, he makes the point that Max protected the inside, and then as soon as he saw Nico go to the left, to the outside, Max moved back again, and he thinks it was incorrect for him to do that. To me, it was such a subtle move, and as I understand it, you can do that now. You can make that one move back to the centre or back to the line again. I may be wrong there, but I think, from memory serves me correctly, they revised that weaving thing slightly after an incident at Spa a couple of years ago. Anyway, no penalty was given. There was no discussion about it anyway. But the question is, was there enough room for Nico to go down the inside? Did he choose the wrong side to go past him? Talking to Nicky Lauda afterwards, Nicky said, even if there was not quite enough room, he should have made room and just gone for it, because then he was on the inside of the corner, and the guy that would have been the loser would have been Max Verstappen. And he's probably right there. And hearing that come from Nicky, who was Mr. Perfection when it came to traffic and positioning the car throughout his racing career, was quite interesting, I thought. And Nico went to the left, however, and therefore was braking really late. The DRS worked perfectly. It was open and it was just closing as he moved alongside the car. But then he braked with the left rear on the white line on the outside very late, and immediately the car just snapped. He held it okay, but all that was due to the intransigence of Max Verstappen, a race of defence on a day when Red Bull didn't have great grip. And what a defence that was. It was absolutely perfect. And, we've seen Max in a lot of different ways now. We've seen him recovering from weekends like Monaco and coming to weekends like Canada. We've seen him in attack mode, early stages recently of Monaco. And also we've seen him win Grand Prix by just managing the tyres well, driving well, and using his head. And now we see him under defence like this. And this, to me, was no surprise, but it was just underlining how good Max Verstappen is. He was really good. Daniel will be thinking another messed up pit stop. why did they put me out on softs? Maybe the ultra soft would have been the tyre that they put on Max's car. Not a good weekend for him, but I don't think he's going to be that upset about it, because at the end of the day, Canada was always going to be a difficult circuit for Red Bull. He'll be looking forward more to Baku, and particularly for Austria, I would think, and all circuits